Chris Bosh wanted to pick Kevin Garnett's brain. It was the 2010 All-Star Game in Bosh's hometown of Dallas. The East All-Star locker room was quiet and the superstars were lacing up. Garnett, the 33-year-old All-Star starter and NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, I wasn't in the heat of battle, spitting obscenities at Bosh. For the moment, Garnett and Bosh were anointed allies in the pre-game locker room, a most sacred place in sport. At the time, I wasn't a threat, Bosh tells me during an hour-long conversation, so we could talk. This was the time and place, Bosh thought. Older veterans had turned down Bosh's inquiries before, I won't tell you who, but in that Dallas locker room, Garnett seemed open to talk, not smack, but life. So Bosh went for it. How did you know it was time to leave Minnesota? Bosh knew the question might make him seem small and vulnerable, like he didn't have all the answers. This was his fifth All-Star game and the loud, dreadlocked big man was averaging 24.4 points and 11.4 rebounds for the Toronto Raptors. Didn't he have it all figured out? Truth is, he didn't. His mind was a mess. Free agency was coming up and he didn't know what to do. The Raptors had one winning season in Bosh's 7 years. Garnett had won a title in his first year with Boston only 20 months prior, and two of Bosh's peers from the 2003 draft class, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, had already reached the NBA Finals. Bosh felt isolated in Toronto and hungry for more, something bigger. Every time I come here, to All-Star, I am always looking at 2 or 3 guys from the top team in the East, or the top 2 or 3 teams in the East, Bosh recalls. Around that time, there was always this buzz and excitement, like, are you guys going to win it? Who's gonna win it? And me. It was just like, I'm just here. Didn't KG feel that in Minnie? Garnett did not blast him for asking. Instead, he offered some sage advice that months later, would seal the deal for Bosh to go to Miami. You want to play with people who can take pressure off you, that way you don't have to worry about other things, Bosh remembers Garnett telling him. You can just play basketball. Bosh didn't decide to leave Toronto right then and there. But the conversation with Garnett gave him strength in knowing that other stars too had felt this weight, this stress, this anxiety. He wasn't alone. Ahead of his jersey retirement ceremony with the Miami Heat on Tuesday, March 26, Bosh is sitting in the garage of his Miami home, reminiscing and thinking about how Miami's Big Three, he, James and Wade, helped launch the era of player empowerment, where stars switching teams in free agency is commonplace. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard have all engineered exits in recent years, making it known they'd like to take their talents and their careers elsewhere. It's huge, Bosh says of the trio's pioneering role. A lot of people don't like it, that's the funniest part. Don't like what? An athlete with brains. When we talk about Bosh's place in NBA history, this is where it should begin, humanizing the star. Everything changed after Bosh and James joined Wade in Miami. NBA players controlling their own destiny in free agency was and is a worthy endeavor. But when they take matters into their own hands to pursue a championship, the scrutiny you'll face will be magnified beyond anything you've experienced before. As one-third of one of the most famous trios in the history of professional sports, Bosh for the first time found himself in the fishbowl, surrounded by a storm of criticism and high expectations. On ESPN, he was nicknamed Bosh Spice by Skip Bayless, a misogynistic barb that Bosh would later confront Bayless about on First Take. The Big Three were often called the Big 2.5. And when Bosh, in a moment of candidness, said that Heat players wanted to chill on off days while coach Eric Spoelstra wanted to work, it became a national scandal. That particular controversy became the third installment in Bleacher Report's running series headlined, "Everybody Hates Chris." And all of that was before Bosh sobbed on national television. It happened in the moments directly following Game 6 of the 2011 NBA Finals. As the Dallas Mavericks celebrated the franchise's first NBA title on Miami's home court, the Heat retreated to lick their wounds following a turbulent first season together. Exhausted, Bosh was held up on the walk to the locker room by teammates Eric Dampier and Wade. Then, overcome by emotion, Bosh collapsed to the red carpet, sunken on his elbows and knees, and cried. The intensely personal moment was broadcast to the millions watching. Bosh knew it would haunt him, but it was too late. I looked up and saw the camera right there, Bosh remembers. And I was like, ah, they're going to kill me. Bosh changed again after that finals defeat, after that moment of despair was shared around the world. The double standard for the pro athlete was laid bare to him. Sports are supposed to mean something to pro athletes, but not enough that it makes you weep. Do everything you can to win a championship, but only if it's on management's terms, not your own. Be authentic, but only if it fits neatly within the carved-out narrative. That's one of the things I had to learn, was to just be myself. Bosh says. Just going through that process, just really seeing the different levels and different flavors of people's reactions and their opinions. It gave me confidence just to say, all right, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm just going to be myself. And that's great enough. It's about what you do on the court, and it's not about pleasing everybody. It's a hard lesson to learn. Even now, Bosh says he wishes he had just kept his emotions in check for a few more steps until he let it all out in the privacy of the locker room. Instead, his emotion became something of a punchline. No matter how hard he tried to block out the noise on social media and on TV, Bosh admits that in his darkest moments he would slink back and listen to it all. In Game 1 of the 2012 Eastern Conference semifinals against the Indiana Pacers, Bosh limped off the floor with an abductor muscle strain, sidelining him indefinitely in the middle of their redemption tour. The injury forced him to stay home when the team went on the road to Indiana. Bosh watched the series unravel just like the rest of the basketball world. We go in and we lose Game 3 in Indiana and I'm just watching, Bosh says. I'm supposed to be ready to play in 2.5 weeks. I can't walk. We go down 2-1 on the road. Oh, D-Wade was awful that game. We just had a stinker. During Game 3, cameras caught Wade and Spoelstra having to be separated on the sidelines during a heated exchange. Lance Stevenson infamously gave a choke sign to LeBron after the Heat star missed a technical free throw. The Heatles were crashing and Bosh felt helpless. In the throes of his funk, he flipped on ESPN and watched what they said about him and the Heat. It drove him deeper into despair, so much so that he just about wanted to quit. Until his wife, Adrian, pulled him out of it. Mistake was listening to the TV. Bosh says, I was listening and it just got in here, pointing to his head, and I pretty much gave up. And my wife was like, nah. In the regular season, he and his wife had watched DVDs of NBA classics that told the story of champions overcoming adversity. Bosh told his wife to pay attention because there would be times of adversity. Don't get too down, Adrian, and of course, the tables turned in the playoffs. Adrian delivered the pep talk telling Chris, hey, the lows are part of the journey. I'm like, I did say that, Bosh recalls telling her. I guess I'm gonna have to pull myself together. Bosh and the Heat turned adversity into an opportunity. Rather than start two traditional bigs against Indiana's formidable front court of David West and Roy Hibbert, Spoelstra decided to go small and start Shane Battier at the power forward position. The switch was something Spoelstra had thought about doing in the series anyway, but Bosh's injury forced his hand. With Battier and James alternating as the power forward, the Heat won the next 3 games to earn a spot in the East Finals. The opponent, Garnett and the Boston Celtics. After 3 weeks of arduous rehab and emotional turmoil, Bosh returned to the lineup in Game 5, coming off the bench for just 14 minutes. The Heat lost, going down 3-2 in the series, as Garnett scored 26 points to Bosh's 9. And it seemed like as good a time as any to give up. Instead, with Bosh manning the center spot, a position he never envisioned he'd play on a winning team, the Heat went on to win 6 of the next 7 games en route to a 2012 Finals win over Oklahoma City. After losing that Game 5 against Boston, Bosh averaged 14.1 points and 8.7 rebounds with a plus 48 in the plus-minus column. Bosh's presence changed everything. In Game 7 of the conference finals against Garnett, Bosh made 3 of 4 three-pointers, totaling 19 points and 8 rebounds. In the finals, Bosh sliding over to the 5 next to Shane Battier and James was a game-changer. Bosh discovered his three-point shot in the new position. The NBA would never be the same. Bosh's career went on to reach towering heights. The Heat defended their 2012 championship by winning 27 straight games during the 2012-13 regular season and later took down the San Antonio Spurs in one of the most memorable finals in NBA history. Bosh was at the center of it all, grabbing perhaps the biggest rebound in franchise history and blocking the Spurs' final attempt. No one was calling him Bosh Spice anymore. But a rocky three-peat quest in 2013-14 ended all those good vibes. James left in the summer of 2014 after the Spurs took their revenge. Bosh re-upped with a 5-year, $118 million max contract but hit the dark place once again. In 2015, doctors found a blood clot in Bosh's lungs that ended his season at the All-Star break. A year later, blood clots returned, this time in his calf, ending his season prematurely once again. A year ago, Bosh was still trying desperately to return to an NBA that now appeared tailor-made in his image. But after hearing so many no's from doctors and spending days without teams returning phone calls, Bosh decided to hang it up for good in recent months. On his terms. You know, you have to deal with that stuff, Bosh says. Just a bunch of thoughts, a bunch of dark stuff, just comes in and pops in and then, yo, where's this coming from? You deal with it. It's tough for Bosh not to think about what might have been. As pace and space, a term coined by Spoelstra, and the three-point shot gained in popularity and importance, more and more big men have followed the blueprint Bosh helped pioneer in Miami. By the end of his time in Miami, Bosh was averaging 4.2 three-point attempts per game, 7th most among big men. Now, 18 big men shoot that many in 2018-19, underscored by Bucks center Brook Lopez attempting more than 6 three-pointers a night for the East's best team. That was one of the things I used to really have trouble with last year watching the game, Bosh says. I had to bounce back from that. I was in a really dark place, trying to rebound from that, to be honest with you. It's understandable. If Bosh's blood clots hadn't forced him out of the league, he could have entered this summer as a free agent, alongside the likes of Durant, Irving, Leonard and Butler, the same players he unknowingly helped all those years ago. It's a fact that has haunted him to this day. It still hurts, but Bosh isn't afraid to talk about that now. This is about being himself. I'm happy for the guys. Bosh says. I'm happy to look back and even if people don't know, to say, hey, you know what, I had a little bit to do with changing the league. Bosh changed the game off the court, too. I ask him, does Durant leave OKC if Bosh and the Big Three don't choose to team up in 2010? No, Bosh says now. That put pressure on him. Earlier in March, Durant told NBC Sports Bay Area's Garrett Burke that basketball will never fulfill me. It's a sentiment that Bosh agrees with. Bosh thought he'd be fulfilled when he became an all-star. That wasn't enough. A championship? Not enough. 2 championships? Still not fulfilled. There's more to life, Bosh says. If you're fulfilled, then pretty much just give up on life and die after that, right? If you're fulfilled, that's a great statement that he made. I think it's telling people as well, this is just my interpretation, but it's like, yo, chill, because everybody puts the onus on that championship. It's not going to fulfill you. And that's one of the big secrets about it. For Bosh, dark places came after titles, too. You strive to get that high again, like another hit of a drug. But basketball can be cruel. People on the outside looking in might say if you win a championship, it's all good. It's not, Bosh says. You still have a long life to live. When you win a championship, it just means a bigger X on your back. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Bosh heard Commissioner Adam Silver's comments to the Ringer's Bill Simmons at the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference in Boston. "We are living in a time of anxiety," Silver said. "I think it's a direct result of social media. A lot of players are unhappy." Bosh last played in 2016, but he's stunned by how rare it is that young players consult him about navigating the fishbowl. Social media has connected just about every star, but they're feeling as disconnected as ever. "Nobody reaches out," Bosh says. "Guys don't want knowledge. Nobody has come to me and said, 'Hey, man, how do you do that thing? It's cool.' I'm not putting pressure on anybody. But me coming up as a player, one of the most important things was to seek knowledge, even if people turn you away. I got turned away, believe it or not. That curiosity and thirst for knowledge drove Bosh to seek Garnett's counsel at the 2010 All-Star Game and setting the wheels of multiple championships and a jersey retirement in motion. And I do get it, we do live in an age of anxiety," Bosh says. "But that's because everybody cares about what everybody thinks. I do not care. As long as it's positive, I'm not going to be a jerk, but if you don't have anything good to say, I'm really not going to listen to it." Bosh is the first to admit that blocking out the noise and criticism isn't easy. He used to scroll Twitter and Instagram to seek validation, to hear people talking about him, to make him feel relevant, to make him feel alive. But he doesn't go there anymore. In down times, he talks to his wife and family instead, his foundation. Social media and 24/7 media became a toxic place, a landmine for which Bosh learned to avoid. "It took a while to get there," Bosh says. "It's exciting at first, but then after a while, it's like what the Lakers are experiencing this year. I'm sure last year they were lovable because nobody really expected things from them. But then you get the expectations and it changes. These same talk shows, you're getting killed all of a sudden. Now you're getting hate tweets. People on Instagram are leaving nasty comments, but you can't worry about that. It's hard not to, but what's your alternative?" The fact that the commissioner was even talking about happiness was crazy. Adam Silver, just the fact that he even felt compelled to say something about that, which is true. You see guys competing for championships and they're not happy. It's not a happy time, to be honest with you. A huge part of it is knowing, first, sucking it up, and then knowing that a championship is not going to complete me as a person, as an athlete, or as a public figure. Now, ahead of his jersey retirement, Bosh is at peace with his career. Bosh is eligible to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2021 along with Garnett, Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant, making it likely the best class ever. According to a basketball-reference.com algorithm, Bosh's Hall of Fame probability stands at 99.5%. Without his locker room talk that led to career autonomy and 2 championships, who knows whether Bosh would have reached these heights. When the Heat raise his jersey into the rafters on Tuesday, Bosh insists there will be no thought of dark places. All highs. Watch Haberstro's full sit-down with Bosh here. Follow me on Twitter, @TomHaberstroh, and bookmark NBCSports.com/Haberstroh for my latest stories, videos and podcasts. Note, all statistics are through Monday, March 11th. Welcome to Spring League, NBA fans. This is the part of the regular season that most closely resembles the NBA's Summer League Exhibition Series, where many franchises focus more on getting an extended look at young prospects and giving their stars a break. Take the Los Angeles Lakers, for example. With the playoffs all but out of reach, LeBron James was placed in a load management protocol by the Lakers, whose 2019 first-round pick becomes more valuable every minute that James does not play. The Lakers also signed 33-year-old G League journeyman Andre Ingram to a 10-day contract after he became a national sensation last season. No disrespect to Ingram, but the Lakers, like the New Orleans Pelicans, are making the organizational choice to not try to win games. As such, there's going to be a whole lot of non-competitive stretches in the final month of the season. With that in mind, I decided to take a look at garbage time heroes that could help you when your fantasy league or choose what to watch every night. I've broken it down into 3 categories. First, I was curious about which stars have the largest differential in how they score when the scoreboard is tight compared to when the game gets out of hand. For those, I looked at each of the top 25 scorers and analyzed their points per 36 minutes when the score is within 5 points versus when the lead or deficit is over 15 points. Garbage time. The players with the biggest jumps in scoring during garbage time are listed below. Secondly, I identified a few players who could see big numbers down the stretch as their teams go into full-out tank mode. And lastly, I listed 3 G League call-ups that could make some noise down the stretch as good teams rest their stars for the playoffs and bad teams rest their stars for the draft lottery. Let's get to it. Opportunistic stars. Klay Thompson. Of the top 25 scorers, no one saw their scoring numbers jump during garbage time more than Thompson. He scores 29.5 points per 36 minutes when the Warriors are either leading or trailing by more than 15 points compared to 22.7 points per 36 minutes when it's within 5 or less. That's not just a matter of touches. Thompson's field goal percentage also drops from 54% to 46% when the games are more competitive, a decline anchored by a 3-point percentage that sinks from 49% to 36% in the same situation. This isn't an isolated case, either. He's certainly had his playoff moments. Sorry, OKC. Thompson has also seen his scoring shrink in the playoffs when the competition is stronger than in the regular season. The sharpshooter has averaged more than 20 points per game in each of the previous 4 regular seasons but has reached that plateau just once in the past 4 postseasons. It could be that playoff teams try to take away Thompson first and then deal with the rest of the Warriors. Teams could also be keying in on Thompson a lot more when the game is close and loosen their grip when the game seems out of hand. But either way, Thompson's scoring rate jumps 6.7 points in garbage time, the highest in this group. Zach LaVine has fought the label of being an overrated good stats, bad team guy. While such criticism is unfair for a guy who just turned 24 years old and tore his ACL 2 years ago, these numbers certainly doesn't help his case. LaVine has scored 161 points in 199 minutes of garbage time this season, a rate of 29.1 points per 36 minutes. But when the game is close, LaVine's scoring average plummets to 23.2 points per 36 minutes, a difference of 5.9 points, the second largest gap on this list. Most of LaVine's scoring surge in garbage time can be attributed to his overt aggressiveness. In those less competitive minutes, he's shooting 21.2 field goal attempts per 36 minutes, compared to just 18.4 in tighter situations. He's actually sharper from three-point land in close situations, 41% versus 30%, which further emphasizes that this is more about usage than it is about efficiency. Still, scoring 23.2 points per 36 minutes in competitive circumstances ain't bad. Bradley Beal. No star has scored more points in garbage time than Beal, 278 points. Most of that is because the Wizards get blown out of 10, but that's hardly Beal's fault. Case in point, since the All-Star break, the Wizards are plus 47 with Beal on the floor and minus 46 with him off the court. Beal's scoring average in garbage time situations is 27.3 points per 36 minutes, which is 4.6 points larger than when games are tighter. That being said, I still think he should be in the All-NBA conversation. I laid out his candidacy in this week's Big Number video. Even if Beal has a scoring surge in garbage time, those situations only make up 15% of his minutes this season. The guy has played more minutes than anybody in the NBA this season. If he's ball hogging a bit in blowouts, so be it. CJ McCollum. Fun fact, McCollum is a card-carrying member of the 50-40-90th shooting club, as long as we're talking about garbage time. For those who don't know, the 50-40-90th shooting club is reserved for those who shoot at least 50% from the floor, 40% from deep and 90% from the line. This is the elite of the elite. Portland shooting guard is shooting 51% from the floor, 42% from deep and 91% from the charity stripe in these blowout situations. He fits the same profile as Thompson, an elite shooter who rarely gets to the free throw line. He's also someone who, until last postseason, had struggled to put up the same caliber of numbers in the postseason as the regular season. McCollum is still a super talented scorer in tighter situations, 21.4 points per 36 minutes, but he finds himself on this list because both his usage and efficiency rise when the game's stakes are lowest. This is best illustrated by his whopping 25.4 points per 36 minutes in garbage time. The Blazers would probably benefit by figuring out how to have McCollum more involved in crunch time, simply to lessen the burden on Damian Lillard and make the offense more democratic. Russell Westbrook. Of all the top 25 scorers, no one saw a larger gap in field goal percentage according to the scoreboard. In close situations, Westbrook has shot 39% from the floor, an ugly figure for a go-to scorer. In garbage time, Westbrook's field goal percentage soars to 50%, a difference of 11%. Continuing this trend, Westbrook's shooting percentages have tumbled in postseason play over the last few years, as he failed to shoot above 40% in each of the last two playoffs, both first-round exits for the Thunder. Westbrook has come up huge in the playoffs before. 2016 Western Conference Finals Games 3 and 4 against Golden State as a place to start, as is OKC's 2012 run to the finals. The Thunder hope to get more of that Westbrook in this upcoming postseason. Interestingly enough, Westbrook's 2.7-point jump in garbage time, 24.1 versus 21.4, isn't a matter of shooting more. He actually has seen his field goal attempts per 36 minutes fall from 20.4 in close situations to 18.1 in garbage time. He's just vastly more efficient when the game's not out of hand. Tank Pilots. Tim Hardaway Jr. Luka Doncic is limping to the finish line and could be shut down soon. Dirk Nowitzki's hinting that he's giving it another go so there won't be a last hurrah scoring binge, a la Kobe Bryant. Throw in the fact that the Mavericks lose their first-round pick to Atlanta if it falls out of the top 5 on draft lottery night, and you have the makings of a Tim Hardaway Jr. scoring binge. Hardaway Jr.'s minutes have fallen from 32.6 per night in New York to 28.9 per night in Dallas, but if they pull the plug on the season, THJ could fill it up. He sees his scoring rate skyrocket when he's not playing with Doncic, going from 15.4 points per 36 minutes with the rookie sensation to 23.0 points per 36 minutes with Doncic on the bench, per NBA.com. The icing on the cake. The Mavericks also get blown out by 11.6 points per 36 minutes with Hardaway on the floor without Doncic. Tank Pilot, indeed. Julius Randle. Tim Hardaway's situation would only get more tanktastic if he was a free agent trying to get paid this summer. This guy, Randle, on the other hand, he'll nuke his $9 million player option well before July 1st with the way he's playing. This used to be